Hey everyone, what's up YouTube fam? It's great to see all my viewers back again. I know some of you have been riding with me since day one, and I appreciate you more than a pizza delivery guy appreciates a good tip. And to all the new faces out there, welcome aboard. I'm thrilled you found your way to the channel. You picked a fantastic time to join. We've got more entertainment coming your way than a clown has bad jokes. Speaking of which, did you hear about the claustrophobic astronaut? He just needed a little space. Now, I've got a serious request for those of you who haven't subscribed yet. Hitting that subscribe button is like giving me a virtual high five. It tells me you're enjoying the content and want to see more. Plus, it costs you $0 and takes about 2 seconds. So why not? Go ahead. And let's keep this community growing. Yeah, all right, let's get this show started. I knew something was off about Michael Rogan the moment he opened the door to Unit 39. Maybe it was the way his fingers trembled on the brushed steel handle, or how his eyes kept darting to the windows like a man expecting something to come crashing through them at any second. But when you're desperate, and believe me, after 3 months of hunting for the perfect condo in downtown Seattle, I was desperate to learn to ignore those little warning signs. As you can see, Miss Brown, the unit features floor-to-ceiling windows throughout the main living area, he said, gesturing with a hand that shook just enough to notice. The glass is specially treated to reduce UV exposure and heat gain. I stepped past him into the space, breathing in the antiseptic smell of new construction and something else, something metallic that tickled the back of my throat. My heels clicked against the polished concrete floors as I moved toward those massive windows. Seattle spread out below like a gray carpet, studded with gleaming towers, the Space Needle piercing through the perpetual cloud cover in the distance. "Please," I said. "Call me Amy." He didn't return my smile. The late afternoon light painted everything in shades of amber, reminding me that I had less than 2 weeks until the next full moon. My skin already felt too tight, like a sweater that had gone through the dryer too many times. I pushed the thought away and focused on the condo's features instead. "The layout is exactly what I'm looking for," I continued, moving through the open concept space, "and the location is perfect for my work at Amazon." "The building has excellent security," Rogan added quickly. Too quickly. 24-hour desk staff, keycard access for the elevator, cameras in all common areas. Very safe. I turned to study him more carefully. Michael Rogan looked like he hadn't slept in days. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his business casual outfit, khakis and a blue button-down, hung slightly loose on his frame, as if he'd lost weight recently. He was probably in his mid-40s, with graying temples and deep lines around his mouth that spoke of grief rather than laughter. "Why are you selling?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. "This seems like an amazing property." That laugh again, sharp and hollow like breaking glass. "Just ready for a change. Sometimes a place doesn't work out the way you expected." I nodded, pretending to examine the kitchen's waterfall quartz countertops while my mind raced. Something about him set off all my carefully honed instincts. In the 15 years since my first transformation, I'd learned to trust those instincts. They'd kept me alive, kept me hidden, kept me from ending up like so many others of my kind, dead at the hands of hunters or locked away in government facilities. But this condo? It was perfect. The layout allowed for privacy during my monthly changes. The soundproofing would muffle any unfortunate noises. The private balcony meant I wouldn't have to risk the elevator or stairs if I needed to get out quickly. "What's the asking price again?" I heard myself say. Rogan named a figure well below market value for downtown Seattle. I can have the paperwork ready tomorrow if you're interested." I should have walked away. Should have trusted the prickling sensation at the base of my skull that screamed danger. But the moon was coming, and I was tired of searching, tired of living in temporary spaces, tired of running. "I'll take it," I said. His smile didn't reach his eyes. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of paperwork, moving boxes, and mounting anxiety. I closed on the condo in record time. Rogan's eagerness to sell meant cutting through the usual red tape like a hot knife through butter. By the time I was fully moved in, I had almost convinced myself that my initial unease was just paranoia. Almost. The first sign that something was truly wrong came 3 days before the full moon. I was unpacking my home office when I noticed it. A slight shimmer in the glass of the windows, visible only from certain angles, like oil on water or the iridescent sheen of a soap bubble. I pressed my hand against the cool surface, and a slight tingling sensation ran up my arm. My phone buzzed, a known number. "Hello? How are you settling in?" Rogan's voice, though I hadn't given him my number. I pulled the phone away from my ear, staring at it for a moment before responding. "Fine. How did you get this number?" "Previous owner privileges. Just wanted to make sure everything was, working properly, especially the windows. They're a special feature, you know." The tingling in my arm had become an ache. He stepped back from the glass. "I don't appreciate being contacted like this, Mr. Rogan. If there are any issues with the unit, they should go through proper channels." "Of course." That broken glass laugh again. "Just looking out for my investment. Enjoy the view, Miss Brown, especially during the full moon." The line went dead. I spent the next hour examining every window in the unit. The strange shimmer was present in all of them, more noticeable now that I knew what to look for. The balcony door had it too, along with what looked like reinforced hinges that seemed excessive for a residential unit. My laptop revealed nothing about special UV-treated glass having any kind of iridescent quality. But I did find something else. Buried in local news archives from 2 years ago, a small article about a series of animal attacks in the area around this very building. 3 people dead over 6 months. The attacks stopped as suddenly as they began. The victims had all been torn apart during full moons. That night, I dreamed of silver light and breaking glass, of being trapped in a cage made of mirrors while someone watched from the shadows. I woke gasping, my sheets soaked with sweat, the first hints of dawn creeping over the Seattle skyline. 2 days until the full moon. I called in sick to work, something I never do. Spent the day pacing the condo, checking and rechecking the windows, the doors, looking for cameras or recording devices. Found nothing obvious, but that meant little. Modern surveillance equipment could be microscopic. The building itself suddenly seemed different too. The long hallways felt like throat passages leading to a trap. The elevator moved too slowly, as if giving unseen observers time to study its occupants. Even the lobby, with its modernist furniture and abstract art, took on a sinister quality, all sharp edges and shadows where someone could hide. That evening I tried to leave. I packed a bag, headed for the elevator, but as the doors opened on the lobby level, I saw him, Rogan, sitting in one of those uncomfortable-looking chairs, pretending to read a newspaper. Our eyes met for just a moment before the doors closed again. He was waiting for me to run. The night before the full moon, I made my final preparations. Normally, I'd secure myself in a reinforced room or head deep into the Cascade Mountains where the only things I could hurt were deer and the occasional black bear. But Rogan had me trapped. I'd seen him or his car outside the building every time I'd tried to leave in the past 2 days. So I did what I could. Moved all breakable furniture into the spare bedroom, covered the strange shimmering windows with heavy blackout curtains I'd ordered rush delivery from Amazon. Set up my own cameras to watch the hallway outside my door and the balcony. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Busy evening?" Rogan asked before I could speak. I kept my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. "Stop calling me. Those curtains won't help, you know. The moonlight always finds a way in. That's what they're designed for. Who are you?" A pause. When he spoke again, all pretense of casualness was gone. "You know what I am. Just like I know what you are, Amy." "Did you really think no one would notice the pattern? Single professional woman, moving every few years, always looking for privacy and soundproofing? Always right after unexplained animal attacks stop in your previous location?" My throat went dry. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Tell that to the Martinez family." His voice turned to ice 2 years ago, right here in Seattle. Father and 2 kids, torn apart in their own backyard. Police blamed it on a wild animal. But we both know better, don't we? "That wasn't me," I whispered, though my head was spinning. I'd heard about those deaths after they happened, had wondered if there was another like me in Seattle. It was partly why I'd chosen the city. Maybe not, but you're one of them. And tomorrow night, when the moon rises, you'll see exactly what this place was built for. The line went dead. I ran to the windows, yanking back the curtains. The setting sun painted the city in blood reds and deep purples. Across the street, in an office building that had seemed empty before, a light flicked on. A silhouette stood at the window, Rogan, watching. My hands shook as I pulled up the building plans on my laptop. The layout that had seemed so perfect now revealed its true purpose. The condo was a kill box. One entrance, the windows forming a perfect circle of exposure to moonlight. The balcony, not an escape route but a dead end, 40 stories up, and the glass. I pressed my hand against it again, letting the tingling sensation build until it burned. Silver. Somehow they'd found a way to infuse silver into the glass itself. My phone buzzed one final time. A text message. The Martinez children were 6 and 8. Remember that tomorrow night when the change comes. I threw the phone against the wall, watching it shatter. In the fragments of the screen, I caught my reflection. My eyes had already started to change, glowing amber in the dying light. The hunt was about to begin, but this time, I wasn't sure who was the hunter and who was the prey. The full moon rose like a silver bullet through Seattle's perpetual cloud cover. I felt it before I saw it, a deep, primal ache in my bones that made me drop to my knees on the concrete floor. The blackout curtains delayed the inevitable for perhaps 5 minutes before moonlight began seeping through them, finding every gap, every seam. Just as Rogan had promised, the first spasm hit like an electric shock. My spine arched, tendons crackling like burning wood. I'd gone through this hundreds of times before, but the pain never got easier. If anything, it got worse, because now I knew exactly what was coming. Through the agony, I heard the soft click of surveillance cameras activating. Red lights blinked to life in corners I hadn't even noticed. The bastard had built them into the walls themselves. "Enjoying the show?" I managed to gasp out, knowing he was watching. My voice was already changing, becoming deeper, rougher. The intercom system I hadn't known existed crackled to life. The Martinez family suffered far worse. Rogan's voice echoed through the unit. "This is mercy compared to what they endured." Another spasm. My fingers began to elongate, nails splitting as claws pushed through. The burning sensation from the windows was everywhere now, silver particles in the air itself, making each breath feel like swallowing ground glass. It wasn't me, I growled through lengthening teeth. "Does it matter? You're all the same, monsters playing at being human until the moon forces out your true nature." The transformation accelerated. Bones snapped and reformed, muscle tore and rewove itself. My clothes shredded as thick dark fur erupted from my skin. The pain was unbearable, but worse was the hunger, the primal need to hunt, to kill, to feed. Usually I could control it, channel it toward animals in the wilderness, but here, trapped in this silver cage with the scent of human prey so close, my consciousness began to fade as the wolf took over. The last thing I saw with human eyes was Rogan in the building across the street, raising what looked like a rifle to his shoulder. Then there was only moonlight and madness. The wolf, my other self, threw back its head and howled. The sound shattered one of the silver-infused windows, sending glittering shards across the floor. Each piece burned where it touched my fur, but the pain only fueled the rage. Rogan's voice came again through the intercom. "Impressive, but that's why the glass is layered. Break all you want, you're still trapped," the wolf snarled, hurling itself against the remaining windows. More silver-laced glass cracked but held. Blood matted my fur where the silver burned, but the beast didn't care. It wanted out, wanted to make the voice stop. A red dot appeared on my chest, rifle sight. The shot came an instant later, punching through the broken window. Silver bullet. I managed to twist at the last second, taking it in the shoulder instead of the heart. The impact spun me around, and I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the remaining windows. I was massive, larger than any natural wolf, with jet-black fur now stained with blood. My eyes glowed like molten gold in the moonlight. A monster, just as Rogan had said. But I wasn't the only monster here. The wolf's instincts saved me from the next two shots. I dropped and rolled behind the kitchen island as silver bullets punched through the air where I'd been standing. The granite countertop wouldn't stop a rifle round, but it gave me precious seconds to think. The human part of my mind, the part that was still Amy Brown, the part that remembered board meetings and spreadsheets and pretending to be normal, tried to surface through the wolf's rage. Rogan had planned this for months, maybe years. Every detail of the condo was designed to either trap or kill me. But no plan is perfect. There are always holes, if you know where to look. Running and hiding. Rogan's voice taunted through the intercom, not very sporting. The Martinez family couldn't hide. Little Maria tried, you know. They found her curled up in her closet, torn in half. The wolf wanted to respond to his taunts, to charge the windows and tear through them no matter the cost, but the human in me held back, forcing myself to study the space through new eyes. The silver-infused glass formed a near-perfect cage, but near-perfect wasn't the same as perfect. The ventilation system, the building's HVAC ran through massive ducts, part of some eco-friendly design that was supposed to reduce energy costs. The main vent in my unit was large enough for a person to crawl through. Or a wolf. Another shot shattered more glass. The silver particles in the air were getting thicker, making each breath burn. I had maybe minutes before the concentration became lethal. Moving with desperate speed, I leaped onto the kitchen counter and slammed my full weight into the vent cover. The metal screamed as it tore free. Behind me, I heard Rogan swear through the intercom. "Ha, clever girl," he said, "but the ducts only lead to other units. You'll just die tired. I was already pulling myself into the vent, my claws finding purchase on the smooth metal. The shaft was a tight fit. If I'd been any larger, I wouldn't have made it. The silver burns were excruciating, but the wolf's strength kept me moving. Left at the first junction, right at the second. The building plans I'd memorized earlier guided me through the maze of ductwork. Rogan thought I was trying to escape, but he was wrong. I was hunting. The ventilation system connected to the building across the street, part of some shared environmental initiative between the properties. The same building where Rogan was perched with his rifle. I heard him firing more shots into my empty condo, then cursing when he realized his mistake. The intercom crackled one last time. "You can't reach me from there. The connecting duct was sealed months ago." He was right. There was a heavy steel plate blocking the passage between buildings. But he'd forgotten something crucial about wolves. We don't just hunt with our claws and teeth. We hunt with our minds. The maintenance access panel was exactly where I remembered it from the building plans. A small rectangle of lighter metal in the duct floor. My claws made short work of the screws holding it in place. Below, the building's utility shaft dropped 40 stories into darkness. A normal wolf would have hesitated. A normal human would have turned back, but I was neither, and the moon's power thrummed through my transformed body like electricity. I let myself fall. The shaft was narrow, barely wider than my shoulders, but lined with pipes, electrical conduits, and maintenance ladders. My claws caught and released, controlling my descent in a deadly game of vertical parkour. Each impact sent shocks through my silver-burned muscles, but the wolf's supernatural healing was already at work, knitting torn flesh and mending cracked bones. 15 floors down, I found what I was looking for, the main power junction for both buildings. Rogan had planned for many things, but I doubted he'd expected his prey to have an MBA with a minor in electrical engineering. The wolf's teeth made an excellent wire stripper. 3 minutes later, both buildings plunged into darkness. Emergency lights kicked on in the stairwells, but the elevators and security systems would be down until the backup generators cycled up, which wouldn't happen because I'd made sure to cross the right wires in exactly the wrong way. Through the walls, I heard panic spreading through the buildings. The wolf's enhanced hearing picked up racing heartbeats, frightened voices, the thunder of feet in the stairwells as people evacuated. Perfect. Rogan would be moving now, heading down to street level. He couldn't risk staying in his sniper's nest with no power and no working elevators. Which meant I burst through the utility shaft access door into the parking garage, where my nose caught his scent immediately. Gun oil, silver, and something else. A chemical tang that triggered a memory from my human life. Wolfsbane. He was ready for me. "I studied your kind for years," his voice echoed through the concrete cavern. "After what happened to my family, I learned everything. How you think, how you hunt, how you die." I kept moving, staying low between the parked cars. His voice bounced off the walls, making it impossible to pinpoint his location. "You're not as smart as you think you are," he continued. "Cutting the power? Predictable. Now you're trapped down here with me. No witnesses, no cameras, just you, me, and enough silver to end your miserable existence." He was right about one thing. I was trapped down here with him, but he was trapped down here with me too. And in the darkness, a wolf has all the advantages. The parking garage became a maze of shadows and echoes. Emergency lights cast sickly blue pools between the concrete pillars, creating more darkness than illumination. Perfect for a wolf. Terrible for a hunter. I caught Rogan's movement before he saw me, a whisper of fabric against concrete. the subtle shift of weight from one foot to another. He was good, I'll give him that. Special Forces training showed in every careful step, but he was still human. And humans are blind in the dark. You think you're the first werewolf hunter I've encountered? I growled, my transformed vocal cords making the words come out in a guttural snarl. You're not even the best. A shot cracked through the garage. The bullet sparked off a concrete pillar 3 feet to my left, but I was already moving. The others didn't have my motivation, Rogan said. He was circling now, trying to get his back to a wall. They didn't watch their wife and daughter get torn apart by one of your kind. The wolf wanted to lunge for his throat, but I held back. Something wasn't right about his story. The Martinez family, I said. You said they died 2 years ago, but I can smell your grief. It's fresher than that. Recent, his heartbeat stuttered. Shut up! You're not doing this for them. This is personal. What really happened to your family, Rogan? The next shot went wild, nowhere near me. His hands were shaking again, like they had been in the condo that first day. And suddenly, I understood. It was you, wasn't it? I moved closer, using the wolf's stealth. You're the one who killed them, not a werewolf. You. No! The word exploded from him. I tried to save them. When Sarah started changing, I thought I could cure her. The silver treatments were working. She was fighting it. But then Rachel, my little girl, she inherited it. The change took her during a playdate. The Martinez kids never had a chance. The pieces fell into place. You killed your own family. I freed them. His voice cracked with madness. The silver poisoning was mercy. Better dead than monsters. Better dead than like you. He spun toward a sound to his right. A piece of gravel I'd kicked with my back paw. Classic misdirection. The wolf lunged from the left. 200 pounds of muscle and fury slammed into him. His rifle went flying. Silver-plated combat knife appeared in his hand, slashing across my muzzle. The blade burned, but the wolf was beyond pain now, beyond mercy. We crashed into a concrete pillar. The knife plunged into my shoulder, but my jaws closed on his forearm. Bones crunched. He screamed. Wait, he gasped. You don't understand. I can help you. The silver treatments. They might work. You don't have to be a monster. The wolf's golden eyes met his. In them, he saw not mindless savagery, but cold intelligence. The human part of me, the part that understood loss and grief and madness, spoke one last time. I'm not the monster here. They found Michael Rogan's body the next morning when power was restored. The official report cited animal attack as the cause of death, though the investigators seemed puzzled by the precise nature of his wounds. One clean bite to the throat. Quick, almost merciful. Not the savage mauling typical of wild animal attacks. The subsequent investigation uncovered the truth about the Martinez family murders, along with detailed journals documenting Sarah and Rachel Rogan's transformations, the silver poisoning, the failed treatments, the carefully planned murders, disguised as animal attacks. The special glass in my condo was removed, analyzed, and classified as a new form of weaponized material. The government has since shown great interest in its properties. I submitted my resignation from Amazon the following week, citing personal reasons. But I didn't leave Seattle. Instead, I bought the building. It wasn't hard. Amazing what you can do with an MBA, tech company stock options, and the right connections. The previous ownership group was eager to sell after the scandal. I've since converted the 39th floor into a sanctuary of sorts. The silver glass was replaced with standard windows, and the security systems were completely overhauled. Every full moon, the floor is closed for maintenance. The soundproofing remains excellent. Sometimes, on clear nights, I stand on the balcony and watch the moon rise over the city. My city now. I think about Sarah and Rachel Rogan, about how different things might have been if they'd found others like them, if they'd learned to control the change instead of fighting it, if they'd had a pack. I think about the others out there, hiding, afraid, alone, some of them children, terrified of what they're becoming, running from hunters like Rogan, or worse, from family members who'd rather see them dead than different. The wolf inside me stirs at these thoughts, but now, it's not just hunger that drives it. It's purpose. You see, Rogan was right about one thing. I am a monster, but sometimes monsters are exactly what's needed. Sometimes monsters can protect those who can't protect themselves. So I watch, and I wait, and I build my pack, one lost soul at a time. And if any more hunters come to my city, thinking to trap wolves in silver cages, well, they'll learn what Rogan learned too late. Not all monsters hide from the moonlight. Some of us thrive in it. The pack grew slowly at first. Rumors spread through certain dark corners of the internet about a safe haven in Seattle, about a woman who understood what it meant to change, about a place where the cursed could find sanctuary. Sarah was the first to arrive, 3 months after Rogan's death. No relation to his wife, just a cruel coincidence of names. She was 17, kicked out by parents who thought they could pray the wolf away. I found her huddled in an alley behind Pike Place Market, half-starved and terrified of her own shadow. "How did you find me?" I asked, offering her a cup of coffee in my office on the 39th floor. Her hands shook as she took it, eyes darting between me and the door. "There's a message board," she whispered. "Hidden. You need special codes to access it. They said you could help people like me." I studied her carefully. The wolf in me could smell the change coming on her. She had maybe a week before her first transformation. "How long have you known?" 2 months. Tears welled in her eyes. My parents thought I was on drugs at first. The mood swings, the appetite changes. Then my eyes started glowing and she broke down sobbing. I moved around the desk and knelt beside her chair. "Listen to me, Sarah. What's happening to you isn't a curse. It isn't a punishment. It's just different. And different isn't wrong. But I don't want to hurt anyone." "You won't." I took her trembling hands in mine. "I'm going to teach you how to control it. How to embrace it without letting it control you. You'll never have to be afraid again." She moved into one of the converted apartments that same day. Her first change was rough. They always are. But she survived it. They all do, with the right guidance. Others followed. Marcus, a former Marine who triggered his first change in Afghanistan. Elena, a nurse who got infected, treating what she thought was a rabid dog bite victim. Tommy, just 12 years old, born with the gene, like Rogan's daughter had been. Within 6 months, I had 8 pack members living in the building. Within a year, 20. Each with their own story, their own fears, their own needs, but all of them looking for the same thing, belonging. But with growth came complications. The first warning came on a rainy Tuesday in November. I was reviewing security footage, a habit I'd developed since Rogan, when I noticed a pattern. 3 different men visiting the building over the course of a week. They never came together, never spoke to anyone, just walked the public areas, taking photos on their phones. The wolf in me bristled at the threat, but I forced myself to think it through logically. If they were hunters, they were being far more cautious than Rogan had been. More organized, which meant My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Ms. Brown?" a woman's voice said. "I think it's time we had a conversation about your unique residential community." The woman called herself Dr. Helen Pierce, though I doubted that was her real name. We met at a private room in the Columbia Tower Club, her choice. She arrived precisely on time, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than most cars. Everything about her screamed government, but not the kind that shows up in official directories. "Quite a view," she said, gesturing at the Seattle skyline spread out below us, "though I imagine you prefer it from your own building." I kept my face neutral. "I'm not sure what you mean." She placed a tablet on the table between us. Security camera footage played silently, transformed wolves running through the specialized training rooms I'd built in the basement. Sarah practicing control exercises in the reinforced gym. Tommy learning to channel his strength under Marcus's supervision. "Shall we skip the denials?" Her smile never reached her eyes. "We've been aware of your operation for some time. Quite impressive, actually. Taking Rogan's trap and turning it into a sanctuary. Very entrepreneurial. What do you want?" "Partnership." She slid a thick folder across the table. "The government has long been aware of lycanthropy, Ms. Brown. We've tried various approaches over the years. Containment, elimination, research. None particularly successful." I leafed through the folder. Photos of facilities that looked more like prisons than research centers. Medical reports that made my stomach turn. Failed cure attempts that read like torture sessions. And now you want to what? Study us. Work with you, she corrected. "Your approach is unique. Integration rather than isolation. Training rather than suppression. The results speak for themselves. No incidents, no exposures, no casualties. Until now," I said pointedly. She laughed, a sound as artificial as everything else about her. "If we wanted to shut you down, we wouldn't be having this conversation. No, we want to expand your program, provide resources, protection, legitimate cover for what you're doing. In exchange for access to your methods, controlled observation of transformations, DNA samples, nothing invasive." She paused. "And your assistance with certain problems." I closed the folder. "What kind of problems?" "Not all of your kind are as civilized as your pack, Miss Brown. Some embrace the savage aspects. Some actively seek to create more of their kind. They're a threat to both human and werewolf communities." "You want us to hunt our own?" "We want you to help us maintain order. In exchange, your pack remains safe, protected, free to grow under controlled conditions." The wolf inside me growled at the word controlled, but the businesswoman in me saw the pragmatic reality. We couldn't stay hidden forever. Better to have powerful allies than powerful enemies. "I'll need to think about it," I said. "Of course." She stood smoothly. "You have 48 hours. After that, well," she glanced at the folder, "there are other approaches we can explore." After she left, I stayed at the window, watching the city lights flicker on as dusk approached. A decision faced me. Perhaps the most important since that first day with Rogan. I pulled out my phone and called an emergency pack meeting. The pack gathered in what we'd come to call the den, a converted conference room with comfortable seating arranged in a circle. No tables, no barriers. Nothing between us. That was the first rule of pack. Absolute honesty. 20 pairs of eyes watched me as I laid out Pierce's proposal. I could smell their reaction. Fear, anger, curiosity, hope. All mingling in the air like smoke. Marcus spoke first. his military training evident in his analysis. It's a trap. Maybe not an immediate one, but they'll study us, learn our weaknesses, then eliminate the threat we represent. They already know our weaknesses, Elena countered, her nurse's pragmatism showing. Silver, wolfsbane, the lunar cycle. These aren't secrets. They could have moved against us already. Sarah, no longer the terrified teenager I'd found months ago, leaned forward. What about the others they mentioned, the ones they want us to hunt? I pulled up images on the room's display screen, police reports I'd been tracking, news stories of animal attacks that followed distinctly human patterns. They're real. I've known about them for a while. Packs that don't just accept their nature, but revel in it. They actively create new werewolves, build armies. Like a virus, Tommy said quietly. At 13, he sometimes showed wisdom beyond his years. They want to spread it. Exactly. I switched to a map showing attack patterns across the Pacific Northwest. They're getting bolder, organized. If someone doesn't stop them, they'll expose all of us. And then it won't be secret government agencies we have to worry about. It'll be panic, witch hunts, genocide. So, we become their attack dogs? Marcus growled. Trade our freedom for a longer leash. We protect our own, I corrected. All of our own, even from themselves. Elena raised her hand, an old habit from her hospital days. What about the research they want to do? The samples? Controlled access only, I said. We set the terms. No invasive procedures. No separation of pack members. And we get full access to their data. Everything they know about our kind, including their failed experiments. Knowledge is power, Sarah murmured. There's something else to consider, I continued. Right now, we can only help those who find us. With government resources, we could actively search for others like us. Children born with the gene, newly turned wolves struggling with their first changes. We could save them from going through what many of us did. The room fell silent as they considered this. We all carried scars, physical and emotional, from our early days. The thought of preventing that suffering in others was powerful. Tommy stood up, his small frame somehow filling the room. I vote yes. Because of you, I'm not afraid anymore. Other kids like me deserve the same chance. One by one, others stood. Not all. Marcus and a few others remained seated, their doubt clear. But enough. The decision was made. I reached for my phone to call Pierce, but it buzzed before I could dial. Another unknown number. The voice on the other end wasn't Pierce's. It was male, rough, almost a growl. Ha! So, the rumors are true. The great Amy Brown is building herself a little sanctuary. My spine stiffened. The others sensed my tension immediately. Who is this? Someone who thinks you're playing a very dangerous game, sister. Domesticating what should be wild. Chaining what should be free. He chuckled darkly. Perhaps it's time we showed your pack what real wolves look like. The first attack came 3 days later. Alina was walking home from her night shift at Harborview Medical Center when they ambushed her, 3 of them, moving with the coordinated precision of experienced hunters. But they weren't hunting to kill. They were sending a message. I felt her pain through the pack bond, another secret I'd discovered about our kind. The stronger the pack, the stronger the connection. By the time Marcus and I reached her, the attackers were gone, leaving Elena broken and bleeding in an alley. 4 days until full moon, Marcus said. She'll heal, but they knew exactly when to hit her, I finished, when she'd be weakest. Elena's eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly amber despite her injuries. They knew me, called me by name, said to tell you. Said to tell you, this is what happens to pets who forget their predators. I fought down the rage building in my chest. The wolf wanted blood, wanted to hunt down these attackers and tear them apart. But that's exactly what they wanted, to prove we were no better than them. Back at the building, Pierce was waiting in the lobby. Interesting timing, I said, as we rushed Alina to our medical facility. Almost like someone told them exactly when and where to find her. If you're implying we had something to do with this, aren't you supposed to be monitoring threats like this? Where was your protection? Pierce's face tightened. We're not omniscient, Mrs. Brown. And quite frankly, this attack proves why we need your cooperation. These ferals are becoming more aggressive. They're not just attacking humans anymore. They're trying to start a war within the species itself. What's their endgame? Think about it, she said. Humanity's greatest weakness is its tendency to fear what it doesn't understand. One major incident, one public exposure of werewolves as monsters, and the resulting panic would tear society apart. In that chaos, they could build their army unopposed, Marcus finished. Turn as many as they want in the confusion. I watched through the medical bay window as Elena's accelerated healing began knitting her wounds. Even with our enhanced recovery, she'd be weak for days, vulnerable. We need names, I said to Pierce. Everything you have on these ferals, their leaders, their locations, their patterns. Does this mean you're accepting our offer? The wolf in me snarled at the smugness in her tone, but I pushed it down. Yes, but we do this my way. No bureaucracy, no committees. When we find them, we handle it as pack business. The government will need assurances. The government will get its data, its samples, its precious observations. But these ferals threaten my pack. That makes it personal. Pierce studied me for a long moment, then nodded. I'll have the files delivered within the hour. But Ms. Brown? Her eyes hardened. Don't forget who you're working for. I let just enough of the wolf show in my smile to make her step back. I never forget anything, Dr. Pierce. That's what makes me dangerous. The files Pierce delivered painted a disturbing picture. The feral pack called themselves the Pure, and they weren't just random savages. They had structure, ideology, and most worryingly, a plan. Their leader went by Ajax, probably not his real name, but it fit his philosophy. According to Pierce's intelligence, he was old, possibly one of the first of our kind. He believed that werewolves were the next step in evolution, meant to replace humanity rather than live alongside it. Look at this, Sarah said, spreading surveillance photos across my desk. They're targeting specific people. Scientists, military personnel, law enforcement. She was right. The Pure weren't just attacking randomly. They were selecting victims with skills they could use, turning them to build their infrastructure. Smart, Marcus commented. Turn a CDC virologist. Suddenly you have someone who understands how the transformation spreads. Turn a special forces operator, you get combat expertise. I picked up a photo showing a man with steel-gray hair and cold eyes, captured by a security camera outside a Portland tech firm. Ajax? That's him, Pierce confirmed. She'd stayed to help us analyze the files, photos 3 months old. Since then, they've gone completely underground. We think they're preparing for something big. Tommy, who'd insisted on being part of the investigation, pointed to a pattern on the map we'd created. Look at the attack locations. They're all near major population centers, but just outside federal jurisdiction, overlaps. They know how to work the system. They've had centuries to learn, Pierce said. Ajax has been documented under various names, going back to the 1800s. He adapts, changes identities, moves his operation just before authorities catch on. I studied the map, seeing something else in the pattern. They're surrounding Seattle. These attacks, they're not random strikes. They're establishing territory, creating a perimeter. Elena, still healing, but insistent on helping, limped to the map. Why Seattle? Why now? Because of us, I realized. We're everything they hate, controlled, integrated, living peacefully with humans. We're proof their whole philosophy is wrong. And if they can destroy us, Marcus began. They prove their point, Sarah finished. Show that coexistence is impossible. My phone buzzed. My arms shot out. My phone spun. B-collar switched with thin skin. I put it on speaker. Hello, sister. Ajax's voice filled the room, smooth as aged whiskey and twice as toxic. Have you figured it out yet? You're not as subtle as you think, I replied, signaling Pierce to start a trace. He laughed. Subtlety is for those who lack conviction. Tell me, how is your nurse? Elena, isn't it? Such a waste of potential, using her strength to heal humans instead of culling the herd. Elena snarled, her eyes flashing amber. I held up a hand for silence. What do you want, Ajax? To offer you a choice. Join us willingly, bring your pack into the pure, and we'll let you live to see the new world we're creating. Refuse. He paused meaningfully. Well, Elena was just the beginning. How many will you sacrifice for your human masters? Pierce was frantically gesturing. They needed more time for the trace. You're living in the past, I said, keeping him talking. The world's changed. We don't have to hide anymore. We don't have to fight. Changed. His voice turned harsh. I've watched empires rise and fall, sister. Human nature never changes. Fear. Hatred. The need to destroy what they don't understand. The only change that matters is the one we'll bring when humanity finally faces its replacement. You're insane. I'm inevitable. You have until the full moon to decide. After that, the line went dead. Pierce lowered her phone. We got a general location, industrial district near Tacoma. He knew we would, Marcus said. This was a challenge, not a threat. No, I corrected, staring at the map. It was both. The next 3 days were a blur of preparation. Pierce provided access to military-grade equipment, weapons modified to fire silver ammunition, tactical gear treated with Wolf's Bane-resistant coating, communication devices that would work even during transformation. But our greatest weapon was information. Tommy, our teenage tech prodigy, broke through layers of encrypted communications the pure thought were secure. What he found chilled us all. They're planning a mass turning, he reported, his young face pale in the glow of multiple monitors. During the full moon, they've identified key targets throughout Seattle, police precincts, hospitals, emergency response centers. If they take those out, the city falls into chaos, Marcus finished. Perfect conditions for them to expand their operation. Sarah pointed to a series of chemical formulas on one screen. What's this? Elena leaned in, her medical training kicking in. It looks like some kind of accelerant. They've modified the transformation trigger. They've weaponized it, Pierce said grimly. Found a way to force the change in new turns. Bypass the normal lunar cycle. I studied the formula. Can you counter it? Maybe, Elena said. But I'd need access to their research, samples of the compound. Which means we need to hit them before the full moon, Marcus added. Once that chaos starts, we won't be able to stop it. I finished. How many do they have? Tommy pulled up surveillance footage. At least 30 confirmed peer members. Maybe more we haven't identified. All experienced, all fanatical. Against our 20, Sarah whispered. 20 wolves who know what they're fighting for, I reminded her. Plus whatever support Pierce can provide. Pierce cleared her throat. About that, my superiors are concerned about open engagement. If this becomes public. The wolf in me wanted to tear her throat out, but I forced it down. So we're on our own. We can provide intelligence, equipment, clean up afterward. But direct intervention is problematic. Marcus swore under his breath. Sarah looked ready to cry. Even Alina's usual calm seemed shaken. But Tommy was smiling. What? I asked him. They think they're stronger because they embrace the savage side, he said. But that's their weakness. They fight like wolves, thinking that makes them superior. But he gestured to our tactical displays, our technology, our planning boards. We fight like humans and wolves together. That makes us better. The room fell silent as his words sank in. The kid's right, Marcus said finally. They're expecting a pack of animals. Let's show them what happens when wolves learn to think. I nodded, feeling a plan form. Tommy, keep monitoring their communications. Elena, work on that counteragent. Even a partial solution might help. Marcus, start working up tactical scenarios. Sarah, coordinate with our newer pack members and make sure everyone knows their roles. And you? Pierce asked. I walked to the window, watching the Seattle skyline as sunset painted the clouds blood red. I'm going to arrange a meeting with Ajax. That's suicide, Pierce protested. No, I said, letting the wolf show in my smile. It's hunting. The meeting place Ajax chose was perfectly symbolic. The abandoned Tacoma Narrows Zoo, where empty cages stood as rusting monuments to captivity. I arrived alone, as agreed, though I knew Marcus and Sarah were positioned nearby, despite my orders to stay back. Ajax waited in what had once been the wolf enclosure. Even without the silver-threaded security cameras Pierce had given me, I would have recognized him from the surveillance photos. But they hadn't captured his presence. The air of ancient patience, of predatory confidence, earned through centuries of survival. "Sister," he said, spreading his arms in welcome. "I was beginning to think you'd chosen poorly." "I'm not your sister." He smiled, showing teeth that seemed just slightly too sharp even in human form. "No, we share the same blood, the same gift, the same power that sets us above the cattle you so desperately try to protect." "Is that what this is about? Power? Evolution?" He began to pace, each movement fluid and controlled. "Humanity had its chance. They've poisoned the earth, waged their petty wars, built their fragile civilizations on foundations of fear and greed. It's time for something better, something stronger. By forcing the change on innocent people, creating chaos, by awakening them to their true potential." His eyes gleamed with fanatic intensity. "Every human carries the potential for transformation within their genetic code. We're simply accelerating the natural process." I matched his pacing, keeping my distance. "There's nothing natural about your compound. You're creating unstable monsters who can't control their transformations." "Control is chains," he spat. "We free them from human weakness, human morality. Show them what true freedom means, human morality. Show them what true safety." "I have seen your freedom. Elena's broken bones, families torn apart, children orphans. Necessary sacrifices for evolution. And speaking of children," his smile turned cruel. "How is young Tommy? Such potential in that one. Born with the gift, yet you teach him to deny his nature. to hide behind computers instead of embracing his power. My wolf surged forward, wanting blood, but I forced it down. You stay away from him, or what? You'll sick your government handlers on me. He laughed. I know all about your deal with them, trading samples and secrets for protection, letting them study us like lab rats. Better than becoming actual monsters. Monsters. His voice dropped to a growl. Let me show you what real monsters look like. He raised his hand, and shadows detached themselves from the surrounding ruins. At least 10 pure members, moving with predatory grace to surround us. Did you think I wouldn't smell your friends hiding nearby? Ajax asked. That I wouldn't have my own pack watching? You've gone soft, sister. Forgotten the old ways? No, I said quietly. I've just learned some new ones. I pressed the device in my pocket, and ultraviolet lights hidden throughout the zoo grounds blazed to life. The pure members howled in pain as the specially tuned frequencies Pierce's team had developed attacked their enhanced senses. Ajax snarled, his face beginning to shift. You dare. That's not all, I said, backing away as Tommy's virus infected their communication network, broadcasting our location to every law enforcement agency in the area. Welcome to the modern world, brother. His roar of rage shook the ground as the first police sirens began to wail in the distance. The hunt was on. The next few minutes dissolved into chaos. Ajax's transformation was explosive, faster than any I'd seen before. His clothes shredded as his body expanded, revealing fur the color of old blood. The pure members around us began changing too, their howls mixing with police sirens in a hellish chorus. I triggered my own change, but controlled, measured, and reformed, but I kept my mind clear. That was the difference between us. Control versus savage instinct. Ajax lunged first, massive jaws snapping where my throat had been a second before. I rolled aside, letting momentum carry me behind a crumbling concrete barrier. Silver-tipped bullets from Marcus's position peppered the ground around Ajax, forcing him back. Elena, status? I growled into the modified radio collar. Counter-agent dispersing through the ventilation system, her voice crackled back. Should slow their forced transformations, but I can't stop them completely. A darker-furred pure member crashed through my cover, claws raking my shoulder. I twisted, getting my teeth into his foreleg, tasting blood. Behind me, Sarah's smaller brown form darted in, hamstringing another attacker. The zoo had become a war zone. Gunfire from Pierce's unofficial support teams lit up the darkness. UV lights created strobing patterns that confused and disoriented the pure members who relied too heavily on their enhanced senses. Tommy's tech disrupted their communications, turning their coordinated attack into individual battles. But Ajax moved through it all like a force of nature. Bullets seemed to barely slow him. UV light only made his fur gleam darker. He was heading straight for the control center where Tommy coordinated our defense. He's going for the tech. I barked into the radio. Marcus, Sarah, contain the others. Tommy, get out of there. Negative, Tommy's young voice came back, steady despite the chaos. Almost have their network locked down. 2 more minutes. I launched myself after Ajax, pushing my enhanced muscles to their limit. He was bigger, stronger, but I was faster. I caught him just as he reached the control center's reinforced door, my weight driving him sideways into a concrete wall. His claws found my flank, tearing deep. Pain exploded through me, but I held on, teeth seeking his throat. He threw me off like I was nothing, following up with a bite that would have taken my head if I hadn't ducked. You can't stop evolution. His transformed voice rumbled, deeper and more guttural than any werewolf I'd heard before. The old ways will return. The old ways are dead. I snarled back, "just like you're about to be." I feinted left, then dove right, a move Marcus had drilled into us countless times. Ajax fell for it, leaving his side exposed. My claws found the spot Alina had identified from his genetic data, an old injury that had never quite healed right, even with werewolf regeneration. He roared in pain and fury, his counter-strike sending me crashing through the control center's window. Glass shattered around me as I landed hard on a desk of monitoring equipment. Through blurring vision, I saw Tommy still typing frantically, ignoring the shower of glass and the massive werewolf following me through the window. "Tommy, run!" I tried to rise, but my left leg wouldn't support weight. "Done!" Tommy hit a final key with triumph. Every screen in the control center lit up at once, momentarily blinding Ajax. Through the radio, Elena's voice rang out. "Counter. Agent at full saturation. All units. Execute Pattern Delta." Pattern Delta was something we developed specifically for this moment. As Ajax struggled with the sudden light, tactical teams moved in precise formation, herding the pure members into pre-designated zones. UV lights, silver-laced barriers, and Elena's counter-agent in the air created a maze that played to our strengths and negated theirs. But Ajax wasn't going down easily. He lunged for Tommy, ignoring me completely. Fatal mistake. The wolf in me, already enraged by his threats to my pack, took full control. I caught him mid-leap, using his own momentum to slam him into the bank of monitors. Sparks flew as equipment shorted out. Tommy scrambled away, but not toward the exit. Instead, he moved to a specific panel we'd prepared, pulling a lever that activated the building's sprinkler system. But it wasn't water that rained down. "Like it, huh?" Tommy called out, his voice steady despite his fear. "Alina's counteragent, mixed with silver nitrate. Hurts, doesn't it?" Ajax howled as the solution burned through his fur, weakening his enhanced healing. I pressed the advantage, driving him back toward the broken window. Below, I could see the rest of the battle turning in our favor. The pure members, their forced transformations destabilized by Elena's counteragent, were being systematically contained. "Your evolution ends here," I growled, circling Ajax as the silver-laced solution continued to rain down. "Humanity isn't ready to be replaced. Maybe they never will be. But we can live among them, protect them, be more than just monsters in the dark." "Protect them." Ajax's laugh was wet with blood. "They'll turn on you the moment they learn what you are. Pierce and her kind are using you, studying you, the moment you're no longer useful." "Maybe," I admitted, "but that's tomorrow's problem. You're today's." He gathered himself for one final attack, all his centuries of power and rage focused into a single leap. Time seemed to slow. I saw Marcus and Sarah arriving at the door behind him, saw Tommy's hand hover over another switch, saw Pierce's teams taking up firing positions through other windows. But they weren't needed. I met Ajax's charge head-on, but at the last second dropped and rolled. My claws found his underbelly, already weakened by the silver solution. His own momentum did the rest. He crashed through another window, falling 40 feet to the concrete below. Even a werewolf as powerful as Ajax couldn't survive that fall, not with silver in his blood and his healing factor compromised. He tried to rise once, his massive form already beginning to revert to human, then collapsed. The pure, seeing their leader fall, began to surrender. Those that didn't were put down quickly and efficiently. I shifted back to human form, accepting the coat Sarah offered me. Through the broken windows, I could see Pierce's teams moving in, securing the scene. Dawn was breaking over Tacoma, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. "It's over," Tommy said quietly beside me. I looked down at him, this brave kid who'd helped save us all. "No, I said. It's just beginning, because Ajax had been right about one thing. Pierce and her government friends wouldn't stay allies forever. Sooner or later, they'd decide we were too dangerous to leave free. And when that day came, well, we'd show them that not all monsters need the dark to be dangerous. The cleanup took days. Pierce's people were efficient, I'll give them that. By the time the sun set on that first day, the old zoo looked like nothing more than another abandoned property. The bodies of those pure members who didn't survive were disposed of through channels I decided not to question. The survivors disappeared into government facilities, presumably for rehabilitation. Ajax's body, however, was another matter. We need to study it, Pierce insisted, standing in my office 2 days later. The age alone, the data we could gather. No, I didn't look up from my computer, where I was reviewing Tommy's analysis of the Pierce network data. He burns today, all of him. Miss Brown, be reasonable. I am being reasonable, I cut her off. You got your samples, you got their research on forest transformation. You got enough data to keep your scientists busy for years. But Ajax, body burns, or our deal is off. She studied me for a long moment. You're afraid? Damn right I am. I finally met her gaze. A body that old, that powerful. The things your people could learn from it, develop from it. No, some knowledge is too dangerous. That's not your decision to make. Actually, it is. I stood, letting just enough of the wolf show in my eyes to make her step back. Because if you try to stop me, I'll tell every news outlet in the country about your secret werewolf research program. How do you think the public would react to that? You wouldn't dare. It would expose your own people. Maybe it's time for that. On our terms, not yours. We stared each other down for a long moment before she looked away. Fine. But this isn't over. No, I agreed. It's not. The burning took place at sunset. The whole pack gathered on a remote piece of property in the Cascades that I'd purchased through shell companies. As Ajax's body burned, I could feel the power in him. Centuries of accumulated strength and knowledge rising with the smoke into the darkening sky. Alina approached, her injuries almost fully healed. The counter-agent formula is secured? I nodded. Tommy encrypted it. Multiple locations, dead man switches. If anything happens to us, it goes public, she finished. Smart. We learned from Ajax's mistakes, Sarah added, joining us. He tried to force evolution. We're letting it happen naturally. Marcus appeared on my other side. Pierce's people are watching the property. Let them watch, I said. Let them see that we handle our own. Tommy, who'd been unusually quiet since the battle, spoke up. What happens now? I looked at my pack, my family. Elena, the healer who'd helped create our defense against forced turning. Sarah, whose courage had inspired others to fight. Marcus, who'd taught us to combine wolf strength with human tactics. Now, I'd really known who I'd been fighting for. I said, we build. We find others like us. Teach them control. Give them purpose. Create something better than what Ajax wanted. And if Pierce turns on us, Sarah asked, then we'll be ready. I watched the last of Ajax's body crumble to ash because he was wrong about one thing. Evolution isn't about replacing what came before. It's about adapting, becoming something new, something that can survive whatever comes next. The moon rose over the mountains, nearly full again. But this time, none of us feared its pull. We had transcended that primitive terror, learned to balance the wolf and human parts of ourselves, created a new way of being that neither Ajax nor Pierce truly understood. 1 year later, I stood on the balcony of Unit 39, watching another full moon rise over Seattle. The city had changed, or maybe I had. Where once I saw only a place to hide, now I saw possibility, potential. Our pack had grown to 50 members, carefully selected and thoroughly trained. The building, once Rogan's elaborate trap, had become a true sanctuary. Every floor above the 30th level now belonged to us. Through various shell companies and discreet investments, Tommy's security systems made it virtually impenetrable. Elena had expanded our medical facility into a full research center, studying ways to help new transforms control their changes. Sarah ran what we called an integration program, helping newly turned wolves adjust to their new reality. Marcus trained our security teams, preparing for the day Pierce inevitably betrayed us. That day was coming sooner than she knew. My phone buzzed. A secure line Tommy had set up. Yes? They're moving, Marcus reported. Pierce's team just received new orders. Looks like Project Containment is a go. I smiled, watching Pierce's surveillance team in their unmarked van across the street. Right on schedule. Is everything ready? Tommy's virus is in place. Sarah's teams are standing by. And our friends in other cities? All coordinated. The moment Pierce moves against us, everything goes public. Every facility, every experiment, every cover-up. Plus some interesting financial records Tommy dug up on her superiors. I ended the call, still watching the city below. Humans moved through their lives unaware of the shadow world that existed alongside them, unaware of the changes coming. Ajax had been wrong about forcing evolution. Pierce was wrong about controlling it. The true path lay somewhere in between, guiding change while respecting choice, building bridges instead of burning them. My wolf stirred as the moonlight touched my skin, but there was no pain now, no struggle for control. We had evolved past that, become something new. Not quite human, not quite wolf, but something stronger than either. Tommy's voice came through my earpiece. They're mobilizing, multiple teams. Looks like they're making their move tonight. Good, I said softly. Let them come, because they didn't understand what they were really facing. They thought we were just enhanced humans, animals to be caged and studied. They didn't realize we were something else entirely. A new species finding its place in the world, guided by both instinct and intellect. The moon climbed higher, its light reflecting off countless windows. Somewhere in the city, another frightened person was experiencing their first change, fighting against a transformation they didn't understand. We would find them, help them, show them a better way. That was the real evolution, not Ajax's forced change, or Pierce's controlled experiments, but the slow, steady growth of understanding, of becoming more than what we were, while remembering where we came from. The wolf in me raised its head and howled, not in hunger or rage, but in triumph. Other howls answered from throughout the building, our pack's voice rising into the night sky. A declaration and a warning. We were done hiding, done running, done being afraid. Let them come with their silver bullets and their containment protocols. Let them try to cage what was meant to be free. We would show them what real evolution looked like, because the future belonged to those who could adapt, those who could change, those who could become something new. And we were just getting started.